The receipt trembled in his hand as the sun poured through the cafe windows, lighting up the number he could not afford to ignore.
What's on your mind?
$50.
Just thinking about us.
That was all that stood between survival and surrender. Arjun Malik stood frozen near the door, heart pounding, knowing that with this single decision, he was about to spend the very last money he had in the world, not on rent, not on groceries, not on medicine for himself, but on one fragile chance to feel human again. Fate, unseen and patient, had already taken a seat 2 tables away. If you believe that kindness deserves second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Arjun was 36, a single father with shoulders that carried more than their fair share of weight. His life had narrowed into a routine of survival after the accident took his wife and left him alone with a 6-year-old son named Kiran. Daytime had become his battlefield. Mornings were a blur of packing lunches, tying shoelaces, and forcing a smile that felt heavier than any physical burden. He worked as a freelance delivery driver, chasing sunlight across the city because nights belonged to exhaustion and unpaid bills. The city looked bright during the day, but for Arjun, it was a brightness that mocked him, reflecting off glass buildings that reminded him of opportunities he no longer had. The idea of a date had not come from confidence or hope. It came from loneliness that had begun to rot quietly inside him. Months of silence after Kiran went to sleep had made the walls of his small apartment feel like they were closing in. When a co-worker insisted that he deserved to feel alive again and introduced him to an online match named Meera Rao, Arjun hesitated for days. Meera seemed kind in her messages, thoughtful in her words, and patient with his slow replies. When she suggested meeting for coffee in the afternoon, Arjun stared at his bank balance for a long time, calculating and recalculating, knowing exactly what $50 meant in his world. The cafe sat on a busy corner, flooded with midday sunlight and the low hum of conversations. Arjun chose it because it was simple, not because it was cheap. He wanted to look like a man who still had control over his life, even if that control was slipping through his fingers. His shirt was clean but worn at the cuffs, his hair neatly combed to hide the stress that had etched itself into his face. As he sat down, he felt the weight of every dollar he was about to spend pressing against his chest. Meera arrived with a gentle presence that softened the space around her. She wore light-colored clothes that matched the brightness of the day, and her calm smile made Arjun momentarily forget the fear buzzing in his veins. They talked about ordinary things at first: work, favorite places in the city, the strange comfort of routine. Arjun laughed more than he expected to, surprised at how easily the sound came out. For a brief moment he allowed himself to imagine that life could still offer something tender. But anxiety never stays quiet for long. As the server approached, Arjun felt his chest tighten. He ordered carefully, choosing the cheapest options, silently hoping Meera would do the same. When she added a small pastry without hesitation, guilt washed over him like a wave. $50. The number echoed in his head with every sip of coffee, every passing minute. He nodded and smiled, but inside he was breaking, wondering how he would stretch the rest of the week with nothing left. 2 tables away sat a woman named Riya Kapoor, though Arjun did not know her name yet. She was in her early 40s, dressed simply, her posture relaxed in a way that suggested she was comfortable with herself and the world. Riya was the founder of a local non-profit that supported families struggling after sudden loss. She had come to the cafe to review reports and clear her mind after a long morning of meetings. What caught her attention was not Arjun's appearance, but the tension she could feel radiating from him. The way his eyes kept drifting to the menu prices, the way his hands clenched and unclenched as if bracing for impact. Riya had learned to recognize that look. She had seen it in widows, in single parents, in people standing at the edge of exhaustion pretending to be fine. As she sipped her tea, she observed quietly, not intruding, just noticing. There was a sincerity in the way Arjun listened to Meera, a careful attentiveness that spoke of someone who had learned to value moments because he had lost too many of them. The date moved forward under the bright watch of the afternoon sun. Meera spoke about her love for volunteering at animal shelters and her dream of opening a small bookstore someday. Arjun shared fragments of his life, careful not to drown the conversation in sorrow, but honest enough to reveal that he was a father. When he mentioned Kiran, his face softened in a way that could not be faked. Meera noticed, and something shifted between them, a quiet respect forming in the space where pity could have lived but did not. When the bill arrived, it felt heavier than any stack of unpaid notices Arjun had ever held. He reached for it automatically, pride and habit guiding his hand. Meera offered to split it, but Arjun shook his head gently. He needed this, needed to feel capable, even if it cost him more than he could afford. As he handed over his card, his heart thudded painfully, already calculating the sacrifices he would make tomorrow. That was when fate leaned forward. Ria stood up, walked past their table, and paused as if remembering something. She placed a small folded note on the edge of Arjun's table and smiled warmly before continuing toward the exit. The gesture was so casual that it almost felt accidental. Arjun stared at the note, confusion knitting his brows. Meera noticed too, her curiosity gentle rather than intrusive. After Ria left, Arjun unfolded the note with trembling fingers. Inside was a simple message written in careful handwriting, telling him that he was doing better than he thought, that his kindness showed, and that no one should have to choose between dignity and survival. Tucked inside the fold was a receipt stamped paid in full, covering not only his table but several others in the cafe. Tears blurred Arjun's vision as the weight he had been carrying finally cracked. The afternoon light seemed warmer then, softer. Arjun sat there, overwhelmed by a gratitude that felt too big for words. Meera watched him quietly, understanding that something important had just happened. He did not know who Ria was or why she had chosen to help, but in that moment he felt seen in a way he had not felt since before the accident. The city outside continued its busy rhythm, unaware that a small miracle had just taken place inside a cafe. That single act of kindness did not magically fix Arjun's life. He still had bills to pay, responsibilities waiting at home, and fears that would not vanish overnight. But it changed something inside him. It reminded him that he was not invisible, that compassion still existed in unexpected places, and that his struggle did not define his worth. When he and Meera stepped back into the daylight, there was a quiet hope walking beside him. In the days that followed, Arjun returned to his routine, but with a lighter heart. He found himself more patient with Kiran, more open to moments of joy that had previously slipped past him unnoticed. Meera stayed in touch, their connection growing slowly, built on honesty rather than desperation. Arjun also found himself paying the kindness forward in small ways, offering help when he could, listening when others needed to be heard. Ria, for her part, never sought recognition. She believed that kindness did its best work when it remained anonymous, when it allowed dignity to stay intact. She would never know the full impact of her gesture, the way it rippled outward, touching lives she would never meet. But that was enough for her. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the quiet power of compassion and the strength hidden inside ordinary people, please take a moment to engage with this video. Your likes, shares, and comments help spread messages that matter. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life. As the sun dipped lower in the sky that evening, Arjun walked home holding Kiran's small hand, feeling the warmth of the day linger in his chest. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long while, he believed that whatever came next, he would not face it alone.